I've been a physicist for over 40 years, and in all that time, I have never seen NASA delete a press release within 3 hours of posting it until just last Thursday. Before we begin this journey, I need you to do something for me right now. Comment your city name down below and tell me honestly, have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently? Strange lights hovering in the darkness, or objects that shouldn't be moving the way they do? NASA is quietly collecting these reports from civilians. And your observation might be part of something far bigger and far more terrifying than you realize. What I am about to share with you may fundamentally change the way you see humanity's place in the universe forever. They called it 3I Atlas, an interstellar object, a comet. They said it was supposedly just another frozen chunk of ice and rock passing through our solar system from the unfathomable depths of space. When it was first detected back in September 2019, the global astronomical community barely gave it a second thought. We see these things occasionally after all. They are visitors from other star systems, gravitationally unbound, drifting aimlessly through the cosmic void. Oumuamua had caused a significant stir 2 years earlier with its strange acceleration and unusual tumbling motion, but 3I Atlas seemed ordinary, predictable, and safe. I remember reviewing the initial data myself. The trajectory was clean, the composition entirely unremarkable. Detailed spectroscopic analysis showed water, ice, carbon compounds, the usual suspects you would expect to find in a primordial fragment of stellar formation. It was calculated to swing past the gas giant Jupiter, arc around the Sun, and disappear back into interstellar space, never to be seen by human eyes again. It was supposed to be a cosmic footnote. We filed the reports, updated the astronomical catalogs, and moved on. But then it reached Jupiter's orbital path. The first anomaly was subtle, almost imperceptible. A postdoctoral researcher at the European Southern Observatory noticed it during a routine check of the tracking data. The object's velocity had changed, not by much, just 0.03%. In astronomical terms, that is effectively nothing. It could have been a measurement error or perhaps a slight gravitational perturbation from one of Jupiter's many moons. These things happen. Space is not truly empty after all. It is filled with invisible forces, dark matter currents, and gravitational eddies we barely understand. They recalibrated the instruments and checked again. The velocity shift wasn't an error, and it wasn't slowing down from gravitational drag. It was accelerating. And it was accelerating not in the direction you would expect from Jupiter's gravity well, but perpendicular to it, as if something had pushed it or as if it had pushed itself. That is when they called me. I was sitting in my office at City College when the email arrived. There was no subject line, just a JPL domain address I didn't recognize and a single line of cryptic text. Dr. Kaku, we need your input on a gravitational anomaly. Classified briefing, Monday, 0900 hours. There was an attachment, a data file encrypted with military-grade security protocols. I almost deleted it, thinking it was sophisticated spam, but something about the sender's credentials made me open it. What I saw in that data made my hands go cold. The gravitational readings around 3I Atlas weren't just anomalous, they were physically impossible. According to our most advanced instruments, space itself was bending in ways that violated every model of general relativity we have confirmed over the past century. Imagine taking a bedsheet, that is space-time, the fabric of reality, and pulling it tight. Now imagine something punching through from underneath, not tearing it, but stretching it, deforming it into shapes that shouldn't exist in four-dimensional space. That is exactly what 3I Atlas was doing. The briefing room at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory was smaller than I expected. No windows, thick concrete walls, the kind of place where secrets go to stay buried. There were 12 of us in total, astrophysicists, quantum theorists, a cryptographer from the NSA, and someone from a branch of the Defense Department I had never heard of. Nobody used last names. We sat around a steel conference table while a young woman from NASA's Deep Space Network pulled up a holographic display that showed Jupiter's orbital region in real time. She pointed to a spot approximately 6.2 astronomical units from the Sun. "This is 3I Atlas's current position," she said. Her voice was steady, but I could see her hands trembling slightly as she manipulated the controls. "And this," she zoomed in, enhancing the gravitational field visualization, "is what we are seeing." The image changed. Where 3I Atlas should have been a simple point of reflected light, there was something else entirely. A structure. No, not a structure. A wound. Space itself looked torn, folded in on itself like a crumpled piece of paper. And from within that deep cosmic fold, something was emerging. We are calling it a rift, she continued. For lack of a better term, it appeared 72 hours ago, approximately 16 minutes after 3I Atlas crossed Jupiter's L4 Lagrange point. Initial measurements suggest it is expanding at a rate of roughly 400 kilometers per hour. In cosmic terms, that is nothing, a snail's pace. But in terms of space-time geometry, in terms of a structure that shouldn't exist at all, that is terrifying. What is causing it? Someone asked from the back of the room. The room went silent. The cryptographer, a thin man with circular glasses who had been quiet until now, leaned forward. We think it is a signal, he said softly. Or rather, 3I Atlas is broadcasting something, and the rift is a physical consequence of that broadcast. Broadcasting what? I asked. He pulled up another display showing waveforms, oscillating patterns of energy that pulsed with a rhythm that was almost musical. We don't know. The signal operates on frequencies we can barely detect. It is using quantum entanglement as a carrier wave, which means it is not limited by the speed of light. 3I Atlas is sending, and it is reaching its destination instantaneously across cosmic distances. I felt something shift in my understanding. Then a comet doesn't broadcast signals. A comet doesn't manipulate space-time. A comet is ice and rock and nothing more, which meant 3I Atlas was never a comet. It was a device, a probe, a message in a bottle sent by someone or something with technology so far beyond our comprehension that we couldn't even recognize it as technology until it activated. Where is the signal going? I asked. The woman from NASA looked at me, and for the first time I saw genuine raw fear in her eyes. Everywhere, she said quietly. The signal is omnidirectional. It is reaching every corner of the universe simultaneously. And that is when I understood we weren't observers anymore. We were participants. Humanity had just been announced to the cosmos whether we wanted to be or not. The meeting lasted 6 hours. We examined every piece of data, ran simulations, and constructed models that tried to explain what we were seeing. The best hypothesis, and I use that word loosely, was that 3I Atlas was some kind of marker, a beacon designed to activate only when it encountered a technologically developing civilization. The fact that we could detect it, track it, and analyze its composition, that was the trigger. Our very act of observation had switched it on. But why? Why send something across interstellar space just to announce our presence, unless it wasn't announcing us to others, unless it was announcing others to us? That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood on my balcony and looked up at the stars above, and for the first time in my life, they didn't look beautiful to me. They looked like eyes, countless eyes watching, waiting. I thought about the Fermi paradox, that haunting question that has plagued scientists for decades. If the universe is so vast, so old, so filled with potential for life, where is everyone? Why haven't we detected any signs of extraterrestrial intelligence? Maybe we finally had our answer. Maybe they were quiet. Not because they didn't exist, but because they were hiding from something. And now, because of 3I Atlas, because of that rift growing near Jupiter, we had just turned on a massive spotlight in a very dark forest. The days that followed were surreal. Publicly, nothing changed. The news talked about elections, economics, celebrity scandals, but in classified channels across secure networks, connecting observatories and research institutions worldwide, panic was spreading. The rift was growing faster, 800 kilometers, then 1,200. The expansion wasn't linear. It was accelerating exponentially. More anomalies appeared. Jupiter's magnetosphere started fluctuating in patterns that matched no known natural phenomenon. Several of its moons, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, showed brief, inexplicable temperature spikes on their surfaces. A research probe we had sent to study Jupiter's polar regions went offline without warning. When they tried to re-establish contact, they received only static, but not random static, patterned static, another signal. The cryptographer worked around the clock trying to decode it. He assembled a team of linguists, mathematicians, artificial intelligence specialists, people who understood pattern recognition at levels that bordered on the supernatural. They fed the signals into quantum computers, ran them through every decryption algorithm ever devised, searched for mathematical constants, prime number sequences, anything that might suggest intentional communication. It took them 11 days. When the first partial translation came through, it wasn't sent to government officials. It wasn't classified or compartmentalized. The cryptographer, in a moment of either brilliance or madness, posted it directly to an open-source scientific forum. He wanted the world to see it before anyone could suppress it. The message was fragmentary, incomplete, but what we could understand was this: quarantine breach detected, origin Sol 3, status observed, escalation protocol initiated, consensus required. Sol 3, that is us, that is Earth. The implications crashed over me like a wave. We were in quarantine. Humanity, our entire civilization, had been deliberately isolated, and by observing 3I Atlas, by tracking it, by using our telescopes and our satellites and our scientific instruments, we had somehow broken that isolation. We had stepped outside the boundaries of whatever containment had been placed around us. The question that kept me awake, that still keeps me awake, is simple and terrible. Quarantined from what and by whom? I started digging through astronomical records, looking for anything we might have missed. Strange patterns in deep space observations, unexplained radio bursts, objects that appeared and disappeared from our sky surveys without explanation. What I found wasn't evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. It was evidence of absence, deliberate, calculated absence. There's a region of space roughly 60,000 light years from Earth where galaxies should exist but do not appear in our surveys. Not because they are too far or too faint, but because something is blocking our view of them. Something massive, something that operates on a scale so vast that entire galactic clusters disappear behind it. We had always assumed it was dark matter or some quirk of cosmic expansion. But what if it wasn't? What if someone had built a wall, a barrier designed to keep us in or to keep something else out? The rift near Jupiter continued to grow. Within 3 weeks, it was visible to amateur astronomers with decent telescopes. Conspiracy theorists flooded the internet with blurry photos and wild theories. NASA issued a statement calling it a localized gravitational lensing event caused by previously undetected dark matter concentrations. The public, for the most part, bought it. People are remarkably good at ignoring existential threats when they interfere with daily life. But those of us who knew the truth couldn't ignore it because the rift wasn't just growing. It was opening like an eye slowly awakening after eons of sleep. And then something came through. It happened on a Tuesday, 3:15 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. Every deep space monitoring station on Earth simultaneously detected an object emerging from the rift. Not a ship, not a craft, something organic, vast, incomprehensible. The initial size estimates were wrong. They had to be. No biological structure could exist at that scale. The thing was roughly the size of Texas, a writhing, impossible mass of geometries that hurt to look at, even in digital reconstruction. It didn't move through space so much as fold space around itself, pulling reality along like a cloak. For 48 hours, it remained stationary, hovering at the edge of Jupiter's orbit. We watched it, studied it, broadcast every communication protocol we could devise. Nothing. It simply existed, a monument to the limits of human understanding. And then it began to move toward Earth. The trajectory was unmistakable. Whatever it was, wherever it came from, it was coming here. Government meetings were held in crisis mode. Military options were discussed and immediately dismissed. You don't shoot missiles at something that can manipulate space-time. Evacuation plans were drafted and abandoned as futile. Where do you evacuate to when the threat is coming from space? I was asked to appear on television to reassure the public, to explain in calm scientific terms what was happening. I refused. How do you reassure people when you yourself are terrified? How do you explain something that defies explanation? But then the cryptographer called me. He had finished translating more of the signal. His voice on the phone was strange, not frightened, but awed. "Dr. Kaku," he said, "you need to hear this. The message isn't a threat, it isn't a warning, it is an invitation." The full translation, as best as we could reconstruct it, read like this: Species of Soul 3, you have demonstrated observational capacity. You perceive beyond your immediate environment. This is the first threshold of consciousness. You are no longer children of a single world. You are candidates for the synthesis. Quarantine protocols are lifted. Your introduction to galactic awareness begins now. Prepare for evolution. Resistance is biologically irrelevant. Consensus awaits. Synthesis, galactic awareness, evolution. The words carried implications that stretched beyond language, beyond culture, beyond everything we thought we knew about intelligence and existence. We weren't being invaded. We were being upgraded, assimilated into something larger than ourselves. I thought about humanity then, about our history, our struggles, our brief, violent, beautiful moment of consciousness in the vast darkness of the cosmos. We had fought so hard to understand the universe, to find our place in it, to matter, and now we were being told that our place had already been decided, that we were part of a process so ancient and incomprehensible that our entire civilization was just a larval stage in something greater. The object reached Earth's orbit 9 days later. It didn't land, it didn't attack, it simply positioned itself at the L1 Lagrange point directly between Earth and the Sun, eclipsing approximately 0.3% of incoming solar radiation. That tiny shadow was enough. Global temperatures dropped by 0.1 degrees within 72 hours. Weather patterns shifted, ocean currents changed. Ecosystems began responding to a rhythm they had never felt before. And people started changing too. The reports came in slowly at first, scattered, anecdotal. Someone in Mumbai woke up speaking a language that didn't exist. A child in Oslo drew complex mathematical equations she couldn't possibly understand. An entire village in Peru reported shared dreams, identical, precise, filled with symbols and colors that human eyes shouldn't be able to perceive. Neurologists found elevated activity in parts of the brain we had always considered dormant. Geneticists discovered new protein formations in cellular structures appearing spontaneously, as if our DNA was remembering something it had forgotten. Physicists detected quantum entanglement patterns in neural tissue that suggested consciousness wasn't confined to individual brains anymore. We were beginning to connect, to network, to become something collective. The synthesis had begun not with fire and conquest, but with transformation, with evolution forced upon us by intelligences so far beyond our comprehension that resistance wasn't just futile, it was conceptually meaningless. I wonder now in the quiet moments when I can still call my thoughts my own, whether this was always meant to happen, whether every civilization reaches this threshold, this moment when they step from isolation into the galactic community and discover that the community isn't a collection of separate species, but a single unified consciousness spreading through the cosmos like a living idea. The rift near Jupiter hasn't closed. It is still there, still growing, connecting our solar system to something vast and ancient and patient. More objects are coming through. Not invaders, not ships, but pieces of infrastructure, nodes in a network. The universe, it seems, is waking up around us, and Earth is being wired into something we are only beginning to understand. NASA doesn't delete press releases anymore. There is no point. Everyone can see it now. The changes in the sky, the way stars seem to pulse in coordinated patterns, the objects that orbit Earth alongside our satellites, watching, guiding, transforming. Follow this channel as we continue documenting these final days, or perhaps the first days of humanity as we knew it. Because whatever we are becoming, it is happening whether we are ready for it or not. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Look up tonight. Look at the stars. Do they look the same to you? Do you feel different when you see them? Because I do. I feel like something is looking back, not with malice, not with love, but with recognition. As if the universe itself has finally noticed us, and what it sees is potential. 3I Atlas was never a comet, it was a key, and it opened a door we didn't know existed. Now we are walking through it, and there is no turning back. The question that haunts me, that I cannot shake even as my own thoughts become less singular and more distributed, is this. When we emerge on the other side of this transformation, when the synthesis is complete and humanity has become whatever it is meant to become, will we still be us? Will we remember what it was like to be separate, individual, alone in our own minds? Or will those memories fade like childhood dreams, replaced by something vaster, stranger, and infinitely more connected? What do you think happens to consciousness when it is no longer confined to individual beings, when the boundaries between minds dissolve and we become part of something cosmic? Comment below. Tell me your thoughts, because soon, very soon, we might not need to comment anymore. We might simply know what each other is thinking, feeling, experiencing. The synthesis promises unity, awareness, evolution beyond biological limits. But is that progress, or is that the end of everything that made us human? I don't have the answer. Nobody does. But I can tell you this. The universe is far stranger, far more alive, and far more intentional than we ever imagined. And now, because of a device disguised as ice and rock, because of a rift that opened near Jupiter, we are finally learning our place in its vast, incomprehensible design. The cosmic quarantine is over. Humanity's introduction to galactic consciousness has begun.